Alright, storms are coming. Yeah, I try to keep the camera out of the wind or talk over it or whatever. Doesn't matter. So anyway, I made this video earlier on the first trip. And something happened with the camera, blah, 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 whatever. So no video. So it doesn't... It was an awkward video anyway, and this one will be awkward also. It's about the wayward thing. I didn't think I'd talk the whole video about it, but I did. And but I didn't have much to say. I mean, there's not much you can say. It's he leaves it open, like, okay, you got new information. I don't know what that is. I mean, if you get new information, you have to change your mind. Well, I don't know what the new information was, so can't do much with that mystery statement. And the other thing was that he thinks now that we don't know enough. So he doesn't think we know what all this shit is. That all this crap in front of me here, we don't know what it is. We don't know how it got here. Ooh, mystery, mystery. And we don't know what its eventual end is and the whole thing. And we don't know that this is just a psychology. I mean, this is all kind of ironic considering my last two videos. The tentacle one and the one before that were just, I think, just close the door on anybody having a thought about the human race having any dignity or worth. I mean, I think they were just decisive kills, headshots completely. In terms of this laughable farce called the Human Project. So I did leave a comment in this video, what his new definition of responsible and respectable procreation would be, because I'd be curious. Does he not mind being born in Nigeria, and have shit worms the very next day? How bad does it have to get? That's not even talking about being one of these little scurvy mammals roaming about. You want to wake up, there. That's how you want to wake up and arrive on Earth, as a hunted animal. Whatever. It just doesn't, like I said, it's nothing. And then on top of that, the subtext would be, I think you're only allowed to have one of these radical transition things like every decade, let alone every year. I mean, having one a year would be bad. But he's had two in 1 year. I mean, radical, change the direction of the car kind of things. And you're just like, what the fuck? What do you want me to say? You be crazy? You be silly? Yeah, you should make videos about goldfish or something. But don't make videos about anything serious, because, at first you have no credibility now. But, I mean, obviously you have no credibility for a reason. You're totally unreliable. Oh, something's very logical, and all of a sudden it's not logical. Okay, whatever. Yeah, sorry. No sale. And then there's just a little personal bit, where, I didn't get any notice of this. He felt it necessary to use the word divorce, which, who the hell knows what that means. And to do it against antinatalism, too, which just makes it, if he divorced himself from ephilism, maybe, okay, that's something. But, I mean, antinatalism is just so... that's even a more basic argument, because that just has to do with how can you look at the world? The world's in preposterous debt, the economy is shit, the environment's on the edge of, who knows what. We got resource depletion, population explosion, and you're deciding to now become an antinatalist, or an un-antinatalist, or whatever the fuck you're becoming. Hey, let them do what they wantest. Yeah, everybody should just do whatever the fuck they wantest. Whatever. A bunch of morons should do, sensitive biological experiments. It's okay with you. Dimwits should impose their judgment on the mind of man and force him to eke out an existence in this shit. So anyway, those are three elements. I don't know. Like I said, the whole thing is weird. The timing's weird. The whole thing is just I don't know, what the fuck am I going to say? Heroin church all over again? It's not as bad as that, but it might as well be, in the sense that who needs this aggravation? You ruin it for all subjects, because, people can use people like you as examples of why we can't have a right to die. Because it's really hard to cover against people who have complete 180-degree shifts in their philosophical perspective. I mean, you just can't do that shit. It just sucks. I mean, and pretend to be reasonably stable or rational. Now, I mean, if you want to just claim that, yeah, you're crazy, okay. Then we can just know to put the crazies in a category. But it's so unfair to the crazies even, because even crazy people aren't necessarily too stupid, to be able to figure it out one way or another. Either it is evolution, or it's mystery magical unicorn bill, or whatever you think it is now. The magical unresolved mystery questions. The mystery information. We don't know enough. Yes, there might be something other than just a conniving brain wheeling and dealing, to get its belly rubbed and its dick stroked. Get real. Anyway. So, good luck and all that kind of crap. But yeah, obviously I don't want to have much to do with you. It's not going to be, like I said, what subject can you conversate on where I can't just wreck you as soon as you disagree by just bringing up the fact that you've been wrong before, preposterously, a gear shifter. You go whichever direction the wind's blowing, whatever your wind is. So, I mean, you just don't have any wheels on a road I care to travel. And, wishy-washy maybe. But fuck the wishy-washy shit as far as I'm concerned. Screw people who play with the truth so casually. Oh yeah, I'll just make major decisions like nuking the world. Yeah, well, this month I'm kind of pro-nuke. Maybe next month I won't be pro-nuke. Whatever. Yeah, sorry. Fuck. It just proves my point that nobody can responsibly breed if what they're going to breed is a washing machine. Something that's just going to herk and jerk the truth all over the place. What the fuck? So anyway, no offense, but fuck you. Yeah, I mean, no offense, but whatever, fella. Gee, thanks. Thanks for showing up in Tiny Chat. Those couple of weeks and not saying anything about the little divorce you were planning. Yeah. Wow, thanks. Yeah, appreciate it. Anyway. I mean, not that it's any of my business. I mean, obviously he did get into this through the mechanism of my video. And that doesn't give me responsibility for his existence, that's for sure. It's not like I convinced him of something. So, it's not my fault. It's not my responsibility. I didn't sign him up. I really didn't. So whatever. But it just is this whole, what the hell? I don't get you people, frankly. I just don't get you people. I mean, I've been the same reliable, dependable guy my whole life. You would have met me when I was 20. I was the same guy. I mean, same. I might have been more inhibited. But yeah, I was the same person. The way you people hop around in terms of perception, this whole idea that you're all just looking for what's the truth? I mean, some of these truths are just rock solid. They've been around for a long time. They're not worth debating. Like the fact that cigarettes should cost 60 cents a pack instead of $6 a pack. Anyway. So, I don't have anything else, any other context to put on this thing. It is just, I guess, an example of how psychology just keeps worming its way in. And it's just so hard to extract it because you do need some psychology. Psychology is part of how the brain works. It can't just think. It has to think with some passion. It has to love some goal. It has to feed on some process, the thinking process. So you have to love logic, or love truth, or you have to love something that's the end product to get to the end product, to have the end product, for your brain to do the work. You have to have, it's like honor codes are very motivating. And they're just simple things. They're just a simple code of honor and a standard of conduct. And they're very powerful once you have one. Once you have a devotion, once you have a thing you care about. That might be worth ending the video on that, the caring idea. I should make a whole video on the subject. Maybe I will. Let's see what I feel like doing later. Anyway, but that Carla, whatever the hell her name is, she's one of these value extinctionists, and who thinks that there just isn't value to be recognized. There's no category that something falls into when it's sentient. Like the category sentient doesn't mean anything. It just means something feels. It doesn't mean that the feelings have any value. So when you put something in that category, somehow that category is as meaningless as the category box. Box and sentient, in her mind, are the same category. The only difference is box is a box and sentient is another word spelled with an S. But there's no real meaningful difference. So if you have a word like harm, or suffering, or pain, all those categories, when something's feeling it, and you put the thing in the category, like say if I could bestow this stick with sensation, and it was having bad sensations, pain, and so I put it in the having pain category, right here, here's the category, now it's in there. She would claim that doesn't mean anything. It only means something from the stick's perspective. There's no truth value to the category suffering. Suffering isn't a meaningful word to her. It doesn't represent anything. It's just something in a state of nothing. No mattering. No value is happening. So you can suffer and there's no value happening. You're just in a category, and the category means nothing once you're in it. And that's just absolute nonsense. You can't make any sense out of that. The fact is that when you feel, you create value. There's just no way to get around it. Something different is happening when you feel and when you don't feel. And there's a huge distinction between the categories feel good and feel bad. They're not anything like each other. They're on opposite ends of a scale of importance, of value. And it's as true as the magnetic poles. It's as true. Yeah, well, I'll stop there. Magnetic poles are a perfect example. Well, not perfect, but adequate. Yeah, it's as true as the electromagnetic force, you could even say. This idea of a potential, always chasing. And when it's in a state, it's in a state. And you just can't deny the state that it's in. And the state is decidedly negative. And all other states are just an absence of that state. An absence of suffering is good. It's a fact. It's not a fiction. It's not a make-believe. It's not a made-up thing. It's not just imagination, like just imagining a unicorn and the idea that not suffering is good. unicorn, not suffering is good. Yeah, they're not the same. Okay, one is made up nonsense, the other is rock solid logic. And it's just inane, for these people to deny that when you sensate, when you feel, you generate, you create something. You're in a state that is unlike any other state. And the state has value, has meaning. It's just it's a hopeless conversation, because once these negators negate, they get so much comfort out of this annihilation of responsibility to worry and contemplate and be concerned that they'll not let the truth back in, because it gives them a way of not seeing the Dorian Gray horror. But it's just despicable for people to keep claiming that there is no value, there is no category of value. Yes, there are categories that have value significance. It's just a fact. And things fall into those categories. Anyway, next time and such. Irritating day. It's not been one of my better weeks. But, I don't like many of them anyway. Or any of them, for that matter, lately anyway. They all kind of suck. Till next time, and such. Alright, decided not to go for a swim, so a little bit of an add-on, I guess. So on this category thing, I think it's a way to look at it, right? There's no other way to qualify what something's doing except to put it in a category, to label it, to describe it. And I don't know how somebody can say, okay, there's something suffering in front of me, squirming in pain. And to say the value of that happening, the event, only has value if I feel something. It doesn't have any meaning unless I feel something. Unless it hurts me in some emotional way, it has done nothing meaningful. It means, that's somehow the only definition would be one of subjective experience. That I couldn't objectively just understand that's a bad thing. That if there was a choice between it suffering, little happy chipmunk, and it not suffering, I would have every rational, imperative, incentive, rational, sensible thing to do. If I can just pull the thorn out of its paw, so to speak, it would be the rational thing to do. If there was two choices, it continues to suffer, or I stop it from suffering. Logic would tell me to stop it from suffering, because I know what suffering feels like. Not because I'm personally suffering over its suffering, not because I care in any fundamental way, or any emotional way, but just because I recognize the truth of it, that it's a bad thing, and bad things should be turned into good things. Bad things should be stopped, and it's just logical. It's just infinitely logical. It's not an emotional response. It's not a subjective response. It's a rational, reasonable recognition of a state of being, and recognizing that the state of being is not a good one, that it's a bad state of being. And so, yes, the individual suffering is certainly suffering. So to the sufferer, the suffering is real, but it's also real in the sense that it is really a bad thing. Not just because I say so. That doesn't make it a bad thing. My opinion doesn't make it a bad thing. It's a bad thing in and of itself as an event. And I know that to be true because I personally have experienced suffering and know that unnecessary suffering would be stupid. Anytime you have the option to negate any suffering without it being any unnecessary suffering by definition, okay? I mean, we always have to qualify these definitions, which is so irritating, but yeah, any suffering that doesn't negate, that through prevention you would not create more suffering. Any suffering that creates less suffering by preventing that suffering is suffering worth preventing. Oh God, it's just so idiotic. The verbal gymnastics one must go to placate these people. I use the word loosely. Anyway. So, yeah, I guess I'll leave it at that. But yeah, I mean, maybe I should just compile the 900 different ways you could argue the point that it is a fact that I have derived through experience, my knowledge that suffering sucks. It is not an opinion, it's a fact. It's a fact that is unavoidable. There's no logical recourse for me but to conclude that suffering, when unnecessary, is bad. There's just no other way to think about it. There's no other logical conclusion. The badness, it screams it. It fills you with the sense of it. It's the only way you can even derive the sense of it, is to have that experience, to know what it's like, and to say, shit, I would never cause this recklessly. I would have never let this exist without purpose. And so it's not a subjective experience. It's a subjectively informed logical conclusion. I mean, obviously you must be informed through subjective experience with suffering. How else could you possibly know it without experiencing it? If somebody told it to you, you'd say, why should I believe you? You're saying suffering is bad. How could they possibly know if they never felt it? So maybe you believe suffering is enjoyable and good, and you like to have suffering, and you'd like for a worm to eat your brain and for you to be in the most horrid pain possible. And you'd say, I'm perfectly fine, leave me alone. Don't try to take that away, I love it. Maybe. But then you're not anything I consider to be a sentient creature. You're some other kind of form of life. You're not a sentient. You're just not. Something else going on. So unless you're just liars, is what you are. You just can't admit the truth that you suffer. You know it's bad. You know it's worthy of preventing, and you know it's worthy of preventing for logical reasons. And it's not just a personal opinion. It's a rationally deduced fact. Yeah. Suffering does, in fact, suck, and it needs, in fact, to be compensated for, if not prevented. Anyway, yeah, enough said. Till next time. And such. So forth and whatnot. I'm kind of depressed today. Yeah, I just woke up today. It was one of those days where you just said, I kind of know this isn't going to work out all that well. And so far it's just been a drag. So anyway, till next time. And such. Yeah. I hit the button, but I don't mind hitting it again. I don't mind. I'll hit it again. Yeah. It's Kind of nice in here at night. Well, clouds are coming anyway. It gets a little bit gloomy. It's kind of a nice atmosphere. It really is an interesting woods in a lot of ways. It has a lot of different sections have different character. But I guess that's woods everywhere does that. Except for pine forests. Pine forests are horrifically samey. But anyway, that's a whole different subject. Don't know if I'll ever make a video on the sameness of pine forests, but maybe someday. Anyway, till next time.